Welcome to Words and Music. I'm Lich at the Cabaret here at the Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. Record sales of over 120 million. 20 top 10 singles, 5 #1 albums, 5 #1 singles, 41 gold and platinum discs to their credit, Grammy Awards, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They are the only American rock group ever to have charted top 40 albums in 5 consecutive decades. Chicago is here with a 36-year career that has made them one of the most popular, beloved rock bands in music history because of their truly great recordings. Does anybody really know what time it is? Beginnings, Make Me Smile, 25 or 6 to 4, Color My World, Saturday in the Park, Feeling Stronger Every Day, Just You and Me, I've Been Searching So Long, Wishing You Were Here, If You Leave Me Now, Hard to Say I'm Sorry, Hard Habit to Break, and You're My Inspiration are just a smattering of their classic compositions that has touched all of our lives. It all began back in 1967 under the name The Big Thing, before producer and manager James William Garcia took them under his watchful eye and changed their name to Chicago Transit Authority, which later became Chicago. They soon moved to Los Angeles and signed to Columbia Records, releasing their debut album in the spring of '69. That was followed by the Great Chicago 2 set in 1970, and then it was one terrific disc after another. In 1978, the dark cloud of tragedy opened up over the ensemble when guitarist-vocalist Terry Kath was killed in a shooting accident, which devastated the other members and stunned their fans. However, Chicago persevered, and the outstanding music continued through the 80s and 90s, bringing this legendary unit into the 21st century. Rhino Entertainment has for their fans Chicago, The Box, a 5-CD, 100-song boxed set, truly a definitive collection, with 3 previously unreleased tracks along with a DVD that features the band in a 1972 concert performed in Chicago, Illinois, as well as a '79 promotional film. This past spring, the guys were in the studio recording 6 more holiday songs, which were not part of the previously issued holiday CD Chicago 25, so later this year you will find in stores a new version of Chicago 25 with the additional cuts. Also, the guys have taped a concert in Chicago for Soundstage, which you will hear on PBS, and here to talk about their 36 years of Chicago and what lies ahead. I am pleased to have back on this broadcast the members of Chicago, my friends, Jimmy Pankow, Walt Parazader, Robert Lamb, and Lee Loughnane. Gentlemen, welcome and great to have you here again. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here. Boy, you read that well. Now I'm tired.
What an intro, right?
Oh,
and it could have
man.
gone on for reams and reams of pages. Let's start with the box set. How did this whole thing come into existence?
Well, I think with the purchase of the catalog, and previous to the box set, what they did was they released a 39-song double CD last year, which went platinum for us, and that was all remastered material, and it was called what? Only the Beginning.
Only the Beginning.
Only the Beginning. Only the Beginning. 35 years later, and then they re-released all of the 15 albums from 1 through 15, all of the Sony material, Columbia Sony. And while we were doing that, they said they had plans to put a box set together, and here we go. 5 CDs, 90-something songs, and a DVD.
Do you think that this is a prouder creative achievement than any other endeavor in the past?
Well, it certainly speaks to the issue of longevity and remaining creative and productive over all the years. But it's really hard for me personally to say what's been the crowning achievement of the band, because it could easily have been everything from the very first album to the week that we played at Carnegie Hall to the fact that we're still around in the 21st century. So it's
Good
really hard
point.
to say.
You know, Lee just mentions 36 years. So when you think about it, from 67 to 85, and then 86 to the present day. So with that in mind, how is it similar performing together, and how is it different?
It's a lot more comfortable now because it's not a case of needing a hit record to go out and fill seats at a gig. This music, it's music that doesn't want to go away, and these fans keep coming back, and they keep wanting to feed on this, and it's a tribute to the music. We, of course, never would have thought for a moment that this music would have been ageless, and it's become a legend thing. You know, Chicago is by virtue of this timelessness able to work as long as we want to work, apparently. And we look out at a crowd and we see 3 and 4 generations. I mean, the old-time fans are still coming around, and now their kids and their grandkids are coming around. As Robert often says on stage, you know, for the audience members that are under 25, we'll be doing selections from our first album, Chicago 16. You know?
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that the other night. Good
and,
point.
and these kids, you know, they go home and they discover in this whole stack of vinyl, CTA, Chicago 2, 3, etc., and they put 2 and 2 together, they realize that their folks are listening to the same band.
Jimmy, how's it different?
There are different circumstances now than there were. We're not the flavor of the month, as it were, anymore. We're not playing stadiums and stuff like that we used to do, and you know, needing security to keep women from scaling buildings to get to us. I mean, those days
They
were...
can't get up the walls, no.
They
We gotta
can't,
help them up the walls.
Yeah. They put extra springs in their walkers.
That's right.
But you know, it's become more comfortable. We're a lot more of an oiled machine, as it were. We have
Finely tuned.
You know, finely tuned, and we have a veteran crew. We're more in control of the business, you know, if there is such a thing.
Yeah, you have your
of our
hands around
destiny.
it more. You have your hands
Yeah,
around it.
yeah.
Well,
Where
that
we used to be kept isolated from that, you know. Okay, you guys just worry about the music. Let us worry about the business. But you have to be aware of your destiny and your, you know, your business, because that's what it's your livelihood.
Walt, I don't want you to be
I think we're just getting good, to tell you the truth. We're just reaching a halfway point. I mean, my dad was a trumpet player in 2 bands till he was 86. He says, you can play as long as you want, you know, and you'll be learning the whole time. And I think we've reached a point, not that it's ever comfortable with either writing songs, performing on stage, and if it is, you're doing something that you're going to be going backwards instead of forwards. But we've learned so much, and we know how to go forward, that it's exciting to realize that if you look back 10 years ago, that with this learning curve, this performing curve, writing music, recording music, the curve has been going up, and that's exciting. And it will, till we draw our last breath when we're 90 playing Chicago 100
Now,
in the studio.
I don't want you to be humble about this, but I want you to speak to your impact, your contribution to music. It would be what?
I think we've influenced a lot of, just the horn section ourselves. I think we've influenced a lot of players to play the instrument. And I didn't realize that for a long, long time until people actually started coming up and coming backstage and saying it to me. And you know, it's an honor to be part of that. You know, be a part of someone's life, the beginning of their career, and that's pretty neat.
So when you think of the timeline and where you place this band in musical history, it comes up where?
It really comes up in my mind, and Al Cooper would have to agree with this, as the first horn band, a rock and roll horn band with you know, a rock and roll rhythm section and horns, where everything is interwoven. The horns are interwoven, and you know, Al Cooper had the first "A Child Is a Father to Man," Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Right.
But he saw us performing at the Whiskey and flew to New York and put together Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So we weren't on vinyl first, but I'd have to say we were right at the forefront of doing something with horns that was more than what James Brown or Sam and David, not to denigrate that music, which was great, but it was a little more than just a bep bop, ba-da-da-da. You know, there was a meaningful writing going on that was an integral part the rhythm section.
Well, also, Walt, in those bands, the horn sections are really, if you will, backup. Here,
Yeah,
the
well,
horns are up front, and as you say, it's on a level playing field with the rest of the members of the band.
Well, we took a melodic approach to the horn section rather than a harmonic approach. We do harmonic approaches as well, but the horn section has become another lead vocal. You know, it intertwines around what the vocals are doing. So it's a unique approach. However, we cut our teeth on Sam and Dave and the Temptations and Otis Redding.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what we did. We were, for lack of a better term, a white soul band, you know, and we did the steps and we did those tunes. And in fact, probably the first tune we ever did when we rehearsed in Walt's basement back in '67 was James Brown. You know, I mean, we did James Brown, and man, I heard this band for the first time myself, and I was going, man, this is the real McCoy.
The big thing. Compositionally speaking, Jimmy and Robert, I pose this to you. In the beginning of the intro, I ran down classic song after classic song after classic song. But when you sat down to write, did you feel that a couple of these songs were better than the norm, that this was going to be a hit? Did you get that sense with certain songs?
I feel about that every time I sit down, every time I write a song. I get really carried away with the excitement of, creating a new song from scratch. And, it's like your kids, you just fall in love with it, and, you can see it being a doctor, lawyer, president, whatever it wants to be.
You sense it from the creation.
Exactly. But after it's written and recorded, it's kind of out of your hands, and it becomes, it goes from being a piece of art to a piece of commerce, and then it's out of your hands entirely.
Any song that you wrote that you thought, nah, this just didn't feel right, but did become a hit and did make it hit-bound?
My songwriting has never been about consciousness of hit material. When I write, which is a constant process, it is for Robert, it is for most of us, inspiration is a fleeting thing. It can happen when you least expect it, and sometimes you don't have a way of writing it down, and that can be probably the ultimate frustration, is some of your best ideas are here and gone forever. So hopefully you're in a position of being able to write it down or run to a piano or whatever. But in terms of what a song becomes, for me, is a benchmark of what other people feel it is. I'm too close to this. I'm too personally involved in this. Basically, for me, it's therapy. It's a
Cathartic.
It's a cathartic experience, exactly.
And it's like what Robert has just touched upon.
Yes.
It's like one of your children.
Yes,
you
it is.
You can't pick your favorite child.
It is, but this child doesn't become a person or a personality until the rest of the people in this band, this is the experience within the band, until they each add their own personal touch to this song.
Or you can look at it as if each one of them breathes life into the composition.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you say that well. I'm going to remember
very
that.
profound.
That is.
Our next interview is going to be really good.
Any song that means the most to you, Lee? I know if I asked Walt that, he'd say, yeah, the one that I heard.
There's just so many songs, and I think the thing that has remained constant with us is the consistency of good material. And I love that each one of the songs that comes up, you can't just, from night to night, not prepare and just go up there, yeah, I think I'll just play that song now, the ballet, no problem. The songs are intricate enough and difficult enough musically where you have to put some effort in. So to pick a favorite song, the whole body is worth playing.
Got to get him to run for office, huh? Like the way he kind of like.
Well, he's right.
Irish, he could run Boston, Massachusetts.
The music is a challenge, and if you get up there on that stage night after night, and you go at this with the mindset of, man, I'm going to make every note count. Before you know it, the show's over because you're involved, with making those notes happen when and where they're supposed to happen, and it's the communion with an audience People ask me, how can you play Saturday in the Park night after night after night? Well, every night is the first night because every crowd situation is different. And it's that audience that is giving you back
Feeds back.
what that song represents to them. And each song has a personal memory. These people relate to where they were and what they were doing when they heard that song. And you see that going on in a crowd every night. That's what makes it
Yeah,
come
Jimmy,
alive.
their minds get flooded with memories, song after
Absolutely.
song.
You don't realize how you affect people's lives that way. When you ask the question, how do we see ourselves? And like I said to you, at the forefront of being a rock and roll band with horns. But I'm reminded, just from seeing the people's faces from night to night, that we touch people in ways that we're not even aware of. Whether it was a Vietnam vet that we ran into in Boston who got to know our music after he had been shot down in Vietnam, but got into the music when he came back to town, or a battalion chief in LA, a fireman, who says, we were pinned down in a firefight, and I knew I wasn't gonna get out of it. And I made my peace with the man upstairs, and all of a sudden a big chopper came down, blaring, "It better end soon." And he says, and I knew I was gonna make it.
We've been talking about songs, particular songs, but in terms of, let's say, albums in totality, if somebody walks up to you and says, what's Chicago all about? I mean, the true essence of Chicago, you'd give them which disc?
I have to say the first album. I mean, that was
Because?
because it was the manifesto for the band. It was 7 guys who shook hands and decided to take this thing as far as they could, acknowledging that we all came from different backgrounds, we all have different tastes, we all played different instruments, and the only concept was, let's just make music together and see what happens. And that's really what the first album is about. It's very broad in style, and it had a huge impact, not only on the people who listened to it, but on us as well.
Your earlier discs, I mean, everybody knows how it reflected a lot of political emotion and empathy. I don't want to put you gentlemen on the spot, but in terms of your politics, what would you like to see happen in November?
Politics is a dirty subject. You know, I mean, we are Americans. We're lucky to live in the greatest country in the world. It's not a perfect system, but we got to make the best of it. Robert was the political proponent principally in the early days. He had to write about things that affected him as a young American. There were inequities going on in our country. We used our platform to express.
And Jimmy did it eloquently
things.
and articulately. You did, Robert. You did.
Well, it was a legitimate platform, and he had a legitimate opinion.
And it spoke to
and
the
an
times.
intelligent opinion. The problem is, it became a cause celeb among every kook outfit from Washington to Maine. We had these student radical groups following us around, beating our door down to start a revolution, violent revolution. And it got to the point where we realized our true objective and our goal here is to entertain. The media blast us every day with these headlines, you know, and now since 9/11 we're living in a different world, and we asked ourselves, how do we work? How do we justify going up on that stage and having a good time and dancing around and singing and playing instruments?
Robert, can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. Well, first of all, I'll say that in the late 60s and early 70s, what I was writing about and trying to express, and I feel not very articulately, was really a reflection of what I saw around me, and I kind of feebly expressed it the best I could. As I've gotten older, I've seen that there are many layers to politics, both in the U.S. and in the world. And as Jimmy said, especially since 9/11, everything has been turned on its head. You know, we travel and walk through airports all the time, and I can't tell you how victimized I feel. I'm a God-fearing, tax-paying, productive American, and I feel like I'm a criminal.
Because of the way everything is set up.
Because where everything is set up, and as I say, I think that there are a lot of layers to this, and I think that my own opinion is that that is all for show. It's all to make us feel a little more reassured that the country is more secure than it really is.
So in some ways you feel safe, but in others you feel violated.
I don't feel any safer at all. I feel violated. That's a little point. As far as where I personally stand now, I've gone from being someone who is kind of a young, stupid, idealistic young person, as most young persons are, to a middle-aged man who has read more, experienced more, and I've gone from being kind of liberal to I'll vote for who I think the best man is, you know, and unfortunately, the choices that we're given, whether it's a local election or a national election, are not sufficient.
So you'll vote for somebody who you think speaks for you the best.
The best, and it's really a wash.
Isn't that what we all do?
Exactly. Back to the music. Here's the scenario. Tonight, we know this is not the truth. We're glad of it to a higher power. But if this was to be the last concert ever of this band, ever, not the last song of the set, but of the encore, right before you take your bow, right before the lights go up, the last song you gentlemen want to play, and for what reason, would be what?
I think we'd put the set together the way we have it constructed right now. It would have much more meaning, obviously. It would be the last time. And
If you could live this career over again, live the whole career over again, would you do anything or wish for anything differently?
I wouldn't. You know, I could say, oh, we should have done this or we could have done that. We made a mistake here. You know, it's turned out pretty damn great. It really has. You know, and going through it all again, my goodness. Or would you want to relive it again? That'd be gluttony, wouldn't it? In a way. I mean, we sure had a great time at this. Here we are sitting here talking with you. 37th touring season. We never missed a touring season ever. You know, and here we are to do that. And as Lee says, you know, if it ends with 25 or 6-4 tonight, and that's where it's supposed to end, so be it.
With everything you've achieved, everything you've accomplished, everything I listed in the beginning, if there was one dream, though, one dream that you could see become a reality that this band would want, I mean, other than family and good health, things along those lines.
I think the dream of any performer, any artist, let's say, is to leave something behind. And my wish would be that my grandchildren's children were still listening to Chicago, hearing Chicago on the radio, if that was such a thing in that day in the future. We still listen to Mozart today. We listen to Beethoven. If Chicago could have some sort of immortality, that would be the ultimate dream for me, the ultimate wish. Leave it behind.
To add to that, being a classically trained musician, to have some kid in the year 2105 go up and look at one of those records and pull one of them out and go, wow, I knew about them, I knew a few of the things they did, but I'm going to really take this out for my form and analysis class and bring it to composition class and show the teacher something that I think is really great. And if that'd be the case, wherever we are, and we might not smell too good, I hope our ears are ringing, because that's would be fine for me.
Well, then they can bring out the Chicago boxed set, Chicago the Box, the 5 CD boxed set on Rhino with the DVD. Also forthcoming, Chicago 25 with those 6 brand new cuts that you just did this past spring.
It's a lot of fun to do, too.
Also, right here on PBS, Soundstage. Jimmy Pankow, Walt Perezader, Robert Lamb, Lee Loughnane. Gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough, so close to showtime, for taking a moment to come here and chat with me. I this means more to me than you can possibly imagine.
Pleasure's all
Lich, you're
ours.
terrific. You always asked the right questions and kept us thinking, and you're a true fan, and for that we thank you.
And you say our last names right every time.
I love you, gentlemen. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate
Back
it.
at you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Lich.
it. Here at the Cabaret at the Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut, for Words and Music, I'm Lich. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.